Good morning, traders out there. Who's ready to get back to the action? We got a lot to take a look at, and the market is a little bit shaky out there. Let's talk all about it, guys. We're going to have a great show. Of course, we'll have Michael Noss back. I'm excited to continue building here, of course, on this brand new year. And I'm doing great this week. Got to keep it going, right? Up close to about 800 to 900. We're going to try to get to 1,000 this week. Let's see if we can do it and keep pushing, of course, the buying power, the limited account that I have on right now. Let's see what we can come up with. We'll take a look at what's going on in the market. Looks like some scare in quantum. We'll talk all about it. We've been talking about it right here on this stream all week long, right? And I've talked about it how quantum overall is way out. And it looks like what happened here, AMD's CEO goes and mentions the same thing. We'll talk all about it, guys. We'll take a look into the market. I haven't had a single trade on today, but got the playbook ready to get after it. Lots of stocks moving. So let's get right to the show and kick things off. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stocks out there that are moving right now. And of course, we'll go into the sunrise report coming up here, guys. Let's kick things off here. Let me go ahead and bring up my stock trading chart here, and we'll keep trying to find some good moves out there. And definitely going to take a look to see what stocks are moving right now. If there's anything that I missed, it looks like there's some Instacart action there that I might have missed. But there's a lot of upgrades and downgrades that we will go through here. So stick around, team. We got a lot to take a look at. I'm going to just keep it running, guys. Let's go ahead. Let's kick off the playbook, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what I see out there right now. All right, let's kick this off and see what plays I got up my sleeve today. All right, guys, first up on the playbook, we're going to take a look at a stock that just caught my attention. And it caught my attention because I did see some insider sales and things like that. But it stood out to me, right? And this is going to be an interesting one here, guys. We're going to talk about none other than RBOT. And so RBOT, of course, the ticker itself just seems pretty interesting overall, but we'll talk a little bit more about that, right? So SQM is not it. Let's go to RBOT, and that's one that I'll talk to you guys about a little bit later. But look at this pattern, right? This looks to me like a perfect cup and handle pattern, and it's in an area that has a really, really good outlook long-term, robotics and surgical. Of course, we all know how ISRG's been performing, right? Intuit Surgical. This is Vicarious Surgical. So we'll look to see if this can continue to run. One thing I clearly see is the amount of volume that came in right here. This is a telling sign for me. That's a lot of volume that come in on that action. So now I'm looking to see if can we break above that high. That's 1897. We get above there towards the 19s. We're looking good on RBOT. And this is a company right now that probably not many are watching. But watch, if it starts rocking and rolling, how people start talking about this medical device stock. So this is something that I would definitely keep an eye out. The MACD also tells me that it's looking good. And it's really kind of turned things around, right? At one point, this stock was $300, $400. Well, we'll see what happens now. Can it turn things around? Of course, it did a reverse split that kind of helped it. We'll look to see if it can really get going here. Not a bad play there in RBOT. All right, got some messages out there. Need to go ahead and take a look right quick here. All right, no worries. Just getting some messages out there. We'll keep it going here. We'll take a look at the next one on the playbook today. And this is going to be an interesting one because it was looking hot. And this morning it came out with news on a smaller stock, but got hit on a ratings change. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in the sunrise report, but I'll go ahead and I'll just bring it up now, right? Let's talk a little bit about what happened here. So ABSI is getting a nice little kind of push on what's going on here, as there's a collaboration between AMD here, and it's on private equity. It's about 20 million. So that also affected AMD to the downside, but HSBC downgraded AMD to reduce from buy. And so at this point, I think you're starting to see that pull back. But what is it really doing? To me, it's washing out the bulls. So I talk about how you could have filled this gap and come right back into that spot. And now it could go right back up to that 130. So I'll be looking for this to get right back up there. We'll see what happens on AMD. Definitely one that I still have on the radar to reverse today and get going to the upside. We'll see what happens with the market and what happens with AMD. That's going to do it for the playbook today. We only got 2 on there today. I was a little bit back and forth today. Reason why, I feel like the Max Payne trade today is actually on the bears. So a lot of people got bearish yesterday, and a lot of people start getting bearish really quickly. That's one thing I noticed. It takes a little while more for people to get bullish than it does for people to get bearish. And I'm usually in the bear camp, but sometimes when I start seeing that everyone's getting bearish on me, that's when I start being a little bit concerned that this is just a little bit overblown. And yes, there are some negative actions that happened overnight. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the Sunrise Report. So let's get right to that. Let's go take a look at what's going on in the market, what stocks are moving, upgrades, downgrades. If you guys got a stock you guys want to talk about, make sure you throw it up in the chat. We'll definitely catch some good comments out there. Good morning to you guys this morning. Looks like Par already got the watch list ready to go. Let's get our watch list ready here and kick things off with the Sunrise Report. All right, first up, we got to talk about what happened with a CNBC, not a CNBC, a CNN report that came out, guys, and we need to take a look at this because it is affecting the market this morning. If you're wondering why you came in and saw the futures down big, this was a big dip on tariff emergency report, as CNN reported that President-elect Trump may declare a national economic emergency to push tariffs under the IEEPA. And so the uncertainty here is looming as Trump's team is weighing the options and keeping the markets on edge. Yes, this is concerns as everyone's trying to figure out what kind of tariffs will actually come out of this. So, of course, I think everyone expects some kind of tariffs, but the question is what and how does he do it? So I think that's causing definitely a stir and something you need to keep your eyes on. Let's go to the quantum computing stocks and take a look at what's going on there as the disaster continues after NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said quantum computers are 15 to 20 years away from being very useful. And he's 100% right on that. I've talked about that here plenty of times, guys, how this technology is way out in time. And Google tried to make this look a lot better by talking about how they were working on a quantum chip. The truth is, they're not trying to sell that chip anytime soon, right? The truth is, I think that these bigger companies just want quantum computing for themselves first. Why? Because it's going to help them really solve some issues in technology and take it to the next level. Then they'll start to give it to the retail. They'll start to give it to the normal man, right? And I think that that's what you need to be looking at. And by the time that happens, I don't think these quantum computers will be cheap. These will be massive expensive. Reason why, to actually create these quantum chips, I mean, you have to keep these chips so cold, right? And that's not easy to do. So we'll see what happens there. Market reaction definitely taking a big hit here. You guys see Rigetti down 25% this morning. I was even thinking about shorting these names. They were dropping fast, man. IonQ down 13, D-Wave and Definance Quantum. So many of these getting hit. Sorry about that, guys. At least I got the mute button on. A little sneeze action here in the house. But let's keep it going, guys. Our quantum stocks running too far ahead of reality. Some things to be thinking about, right? Let's talk about what else is going on out there. Of course, the AMD news that is affecting, and we just talked about it a little bit, but definitely take a look to see what happens with ABSI, very private equity deal of 20 million here. And we'll see what happens with AMD and different names out there. And there's still some penny stocks making some big moves out there. So I'm trying to catch those also as they get going. We'll keep taking a look into the scanners to see what I can find there. Pulling up another Benzinga Pro. I think I just cooled it down there. But let's go ahead. Let me take a look here, see if I see anything moving big right now. I see XHG moving big. That's a $2 stock. Kerr, $3 stock, up a decent amount too, about 133. So CURR now starting to take lead. Big spike there, up there towards 450s, pulled back there on the minutes. And look at this. This is nice looking pattern here. Up one, down one, up two, down two, up three, down three. At this point, I'd like to see it hold that $3 support. So at this point, we could risk off of that $3 spot. What I'd like to see is this come back here, like towards 310s, and then start to take off here, but doesn't look too bad here. Let's see what happens in CURR. All right, Cal-Maine Foods is also making a move out there, and I'll be keeping a watch on the CURR. I might take a trade right here in the pre-market. I'll let you guys know. But Cal-Maine Foods, of course, the eggs producer, is definitely getting a nice little beat here. Q2 EPS of $4.47, revenues of $954.7 million, up 82% year over year. Shares are up 4% here as thin coverage leaves the street estimate non-comparable. Which headline will move the market the most today? I think this is one of those, as you're seeing a nice little spike in the eggs producer. And I've been talking about how farming products are going to be getting more expensive. So I think in this year, we can definitely take a look to see if TSN gets a spike. We can take a look at Archer Daniel Midland, right? There's so many names here that I think in the long run will run into some kind of inflationary spike. We'll see what happens there. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the Sunrise Report. There wasn't much out there on the action of news, but there's a lot of ratings out there. We're going to take a little bit more look into those. Let's go back to Kerr here, see if maybe I start to take this trade. It's not a bad one here, so I'm taking a look at it. Just want to see it really start to get going. It just did that 310 pullback. Really would like to see it hold 10 now, 310s, and not cut underneath that. Let's see if it starts to go here towards the VWAP, 345, 350s, and then really up there towards 4. It could be a nice, easy sell. We'll see what happens here. It is setting up there. Even on the 15-minute, it doesn't look bad at all here. Up 1, down 1, up 2, down 2, up 3. So now you can start to make a build towards 355. It's not a bad looking play here. We'll see if it really starts to get going here on CURR. What do you guys think about this one? It's a nice little setup there. Doesn't look too bad there. A couple of times trying to break the 3. Could still go to the 290s and then get going. So I'm just keeping a very close eye on this. We'll see if it wants to make the move here. All right, catching up with the chat. What's going on out there? We'll go to some ratings out there. What's going on out there? Oliver, J. Angelo. It's good to see you guys out there, man. Bearish moves are more because of spreads, panic. Yeah, I mean, there is some panic out there. And I think one of the things that we need to be thinking about are people getting too bearish too quickly. It's one thing to think about, right? Kevin bringing up an interesting stock there, ONDS. Let's take a look at that one. Ondas Holdings up there towards $3. And any holdings company tells me that, you got to really look into this, so understand, right, what it is that they do. But this is looking like it's trying to get through 3. This is the big level right here. Right now, as it's trying to get through 3. It could get a little spike after that, maybe a little bit of a scalping opportunity here off the 290s or 280s. We'll see what happens there on ONDS. Been going up. We'll see if it can hold on to the move. And if you see what's interesting, you just brought that one up, Kevin, and look what's on the top of my scanner. I'll show you it right there. Benzinga Pro, you can see right here, ONDS. Right at the top, right? This is why I use this scanner. This is why I set it up to do it this way. But definitely, in military drones, good to know. Good to know. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. There is a company that my man Matthew Higgins is working on. So I'm looking into more and more U.S. drone companies to see how they can really kind of change things. The big thing is, of course, who leads the space? It's China, and it's, of course, DJI. That's the major competition, right? All right, guys, let's keep going. Let's go to some solar stocks as they're getting some ratings here. Solar Edge was making a nice move yesterday. It's already back down to 16. As Solar Edge stock dropped as Citi downgraded SolarEdge to sell from neutral, saying that the company faces stubbornly high operating expenses despite its restructuring announcement. So not good news here on that. Of course, not what you want to be seeing. So we'll see what happens there. Not looking good here for SolarEdge and solar overall. So we were getting a little bit of a lift yesterday in some solar names. Now, not so much there, guys. So we'll see what happens in there. You got NVO, okay? News coming out of here, NVO, as the pharmaceutical giant rose more than 3% following an upgrade to buy from neutral on UBS. Of course, what did we see start getting going yesterday, guys? We started seeing multiple names start to make a lift. We started seeing NVAX, right, get a lift. And why was this getting the lift? This was getting the lift based on what is being mentioned out there. A lot of the bird flu conversation, but Novo is getting the lift here based on the high demand for the GLP-1 medication near term. It said that Novo Nordisk has retreated more than 40% in the last 6 months and could start to see some push. So this is not a bad one. High demand. Looking into this, we'll see what happens if these can continue. Of course, yesterday I made my money with BNTX. Made a nice little close to $300 trade. It was just under $300. We'll see if BNTX can continue today. And Moderna was another one that was pretty hot yesterday. So keep your eyes on these healthcare names. There is Instacart here that definitely got the move there. What is Instacart? Instacart, I barely take a look at this one. Maple Bear, cart. There you go. C-A-R-K. C-A-R-T, not K-A-R-T. I don't know why I thought it was K-A-R-T. All right, Maple Bear, of course, this is Instacart. The shares of the parent grocery delivery company, Instacart, popped nearly 5%. Maple Bear is set to replace Envious in the S&P Midcap 400. Effective trading commences on Tuesday, January 14th. I think this is one you can watch for, guys. Whenever you get these mentions of adding to kind of the major indexes, I think this is something definitely to look out for. Nice looking pattern on this cart. You can see how it was coming down here. Kind of caught some real nice support in this area here. So up towards like the 42, really nice buyers stepping in there. Now I need to see, can it get through 46? 46, big level to watch for me today. As it starts to get through there, I'll be watching today, especially. Not a bad one to look at here on cart. All right, cart. We'll see what happens if it starts to make the spike back towards the 45 spot, 45.20s. I'll let you guys know about that one. Shell is trimming its liquefied natural gas production outlook for its fourth quarter. Shell also expects its oil and gas trading results to come in lower than the previous month. So Shell, of course, is not what you want to be seeing there, taking a big hit there on some of the oil stocks that were pretty hot yesterday. We'll see if XOM can stay hot there. You can see how it's pulling back. It did just do a little bit of a bounce. Personally, I think this is still pointing to the downside. We'll see what happens there. Of course, Getty Images is tumbling after surging 24% on Tuesday's session. So keep your eyes on Getty. We'll see if it's able to get the bounce again and maybe fill the gap and start to work its way back to the upside. Quantum, we've already talked about, so that's going to do it on that outlook and the Sunrise report. But that's enough of what I see in the market, right? Like always, we're going to continue bringing on more traders right here on TTP. So if you guys are excited as I am to continue going, my man Michael is ready to get going. So that means you know what time it is, guys. Start that countdown and start TTP Live.
Wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at. What up out there, traders? How we doing? Who's ready to get into the trading action? Let's go ahead. Let's bring on the man himself, my epic duo now that I have. What's up, Michael? How we doing?
What's going on? Interesting day. It's looks like quantum just disappeared in an instant, and now we got to look for what's next.
What is quantum, right? I mean, that's what I think investors don't really do sometimes, right? So like investors start seeing yeah, their P&L is rising, they're up 180%, but they don't go digging into understanding what it is really that technology actually is, right? It's like when the metaverse was out, right? Yeah, it was really cool to talk about, but a whole other thing is if it's actually tangible and can make money now, right? And I think that's the one thing that people were thinking about with quantum, but they didn't realize this is so far out, right? I tried to mention it. I mean, I still remember when I first interviewed Niccolo De Masi when he got IonQ. So of course it was a SPAC. If you guys don't know about that, right? For those that didn't know, it was a SPAC, right? And I remember like asking him questions like, "Hey, how far is this out?" And he said, "Yes, this is far out, but we're working to develop the technology to get there." And I said, "Well, is it like, 5, 10 years?" And he said closer towards that 10-year outlook, right? And that was back in like 2022, 2021. So I don't think this is anywhere near where retail could be using this. I think at the end of the day, it's just companies that want access to this to continue to develop technology and slowly make money with it, right? Because it's not about just giving it to the people. If it was that, I mean, we'd already have a quantum chip already, and everyone would be trying to hack those crypto wallets. So,
well, and it's the same as a new biotech. We've been talking about psychedelics a little bit on the channel. It's the same thing. There will be one guy out there who is the first to do it, and that will end up doing very well. I'm going to be interested in it's in the works. I don't even need to look it up. I know it's in the works. There will be some sort of quantum ETF being built where it's going to buy a little bit of all these. Maybe that will be the bet. But yeah, if your industry, if your sector, if your story is so fragile that one guy makes one comment at a tech bro convention and everything's down 50%, you're very early. So I think it's one of those things that you're either trading these like momentum, you're trading with some momentum with them, or conversely, you're a long-term holder, and then I think you have to have some sort of plan to just dollar cost average into the ones you like over a long period of time, because this is going to be capital intensive, right? These guys have absolutely no way to make money, and they're going to be spending a lot of money, research, development, building chips, all that. So they're going to have to dilute shareholders, raise money in some sort of way over the long period of time. So it's one of those things that if you believe it for the long run, great. I would just say, hey, if you're going to commit $10,000 to the trade, maybe you do 1,000 every couple months over the next couple years, right? Maybe you get a good price that way. Other than that, I think what you do is you trade it when it's a story. I already see a question in the chat about that RGTI.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I think they're dead for now. Someday, couple months from now, we'll probably be talking about it again. They'll pop out of some base, there'll be some other story, another big technology leap forward, and they'll be back in play. But for me, it's just put them on a watch list somewhere, check on them once a week, and just kind of ignore them for now.
Yeah, and I think that one thing is for certain is I feel like these companies are probably missing an opportunity here to raise cash, right? And that's what I would have been looking at if I were these companies, getting this type of lift, especially like a company like, let's say, QMCO that went from $2 a couple of weeks ago to now like up to 50, right? I mean, it was crazy. I think it got to 90 actually on QMCO. So like not raising money is like the complete wrong thing to do here, right? And so what does that mean here is that they still have the opportunity, I feel like, to raise money. So I think if anything, there's more headline risk here to the downside than there's headline risk to the upside, right? Of missing out on the reward. So in my eyes, I think they're just at this point, it's kind of hard to trade them to the downside because in my eyes, they're in the middle of their daily chart and their trends. And I hate trading anything that's in the middle. I don't know about you, Michael, but I feel like, that's where the pigs get slaughtered, right? You're either a bear or you're a bull. That's the way I think things often. And every time I get in those middle spots, I just feel like I get run over between the volatility.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest risks when a story, and we're assuming when a story ends, right? When the ride is over, a lot of people go, okay, I'm going to short this thing into the ground. I'm going to hit it real hard. We can look at some of this, like QSI, for example, right? I'm gonna short this thing into the ground, but like you mentioned, what if it just hangs out between 150 and this $3 for the next 6 months to a year, right? It's the whole bears make money, bulls make money, pigs get slaughtered type of thing. You would just get chopped into oblivion. And on an intraday basis, maybe there'll be a news story here or there. You take a trade here or there, maybe there'll be something going on. But I'm going to eat a little bit of humble pie, if you don't mind, for a second here in front of the audience, because I made another mistake yesterday with my new account. So I think there's a good lesson here. We'll just quickly go over. So
no, I honestly, just saying it from my side, I do the
Yeah.
same, Michael. I think there's nothing better than making a mistake and then giving them the ability to understand, hey, dude, even traders that trade years and years are going to make mistakes. The key is being transparent about it to yourself, especially too, right? Because you can easily just try to turn the page, but what you need to do is react like I saw you react when you made a mistake. I think it was yesterday or the day prior. And what you do is you instantly just try to get back to the even spot, right? Because if we make a mistake, even if we're in the green, I cut out those trades too. Because the truth is, at that point, what you need to do is get your mind right. Right? We all going to make a mistake. The instant reaction is always like, so at that point, reacting and saving yourself, being neutral to the trade is probably the best, right? At least that's what I would see in my trading. And let us know what happened yesterday and how traders can improve from that.
Yeah. So, a lot of you guys, I've been building these algorithms. I've been building these systems in order to help me kind of get into the day trading thing. I'm mainly, before kind of coming and hanging out with you guys, a longer term type person, a longer term trader. I had some experience with Trade the Pool in the past, and the system had basically liquidated me 5 minutes to the close, right? What I didn't realize is that if you take a position so small that it basically assumes that you're going to be swing trading it, right? So I had 1,000 shares of this EKR that I mentioned that I bought on stream. I was actually up a fair amount into it, and again, just assumed that it would liquidate me into the close, right? And I'm certainly not blaming the system. The system did exactly as it was designed to do, kept me in, and then this morning we had this nice drop to 87 cents, liquidated me there. So just full disclosure, I am shut out for the day. So what do? Right? So I'm a systematic trader. I use algorithms to tell me when to buy and sell. So as a systematic trader, I just created a simple system. And simple being the keyword. On my phone, 10 minutes before the close now, there's just an alarm that says, hey, close all positions, cancel all orders. I've got the app on my phone as well, just in case I'm away from my desk. And just, right? So I just think it's a really good lesson that, I went to the gym, maybe I lifted weights a little bit harder today, got a little bit angry at myself, but the most important thing is when you have a mistake, you have something like that happens, you go, okay, where can I work and develop a system so it won't happen again? So I've got that alert on my phone now. It kind of won't happen again, but I just thought, hey, I'm being very transparent, sharing the journey into day trading with you guys. That was just one thing that I learned. So so that stopped me out for the day, put the account in the red, and then we just move on, right? So what we don't do is what a lot of new traders fall into, where they say, oh, now I got to trade bigger to make back that loss. I got to get the account in the green. None of that. I'm going to come back on Friday with the exact same risk that I was trading before, the exact same systems I was trading before. Just a new note in my trading journal that says, hey, make sure you always have that alarm on and that it's set to repeat every weekday.
Yeah. And I agree. Definitely need to have the app. I think everybody should have the app. If you're not downloaded the app, I mean, I don't know what you're doing, because we all can't be at the desk at every single minute of time, right? And moments like yesterday, just to give perspective, right? The last 2 days, you guys have seen me open trades. How have I closed them? With the app.
Yeah. Well,
you know
and
what I mean?
not even that. What about, and this is something that's happened to me before, and I had a big, this is a evaluation account, it's a small account, all that stuff. But my real trading, it's big, right? I'm
Yeah.
not going to talk numbers, but they're big accounts. I live in Canada. We sometimes have ice storms that knock out the internet and the power and everything, right? So you should have the app, even if you're planning on always being at your desk and placing trades. Because what if something happens and boom, your power goes and your computer shuts off or your internet gets kicked out or whatever. 100% make sure you have the app, because then just open up your phone, you liquidate everything for the day, you move on. I've been 3-4 days, no power because the ice is on the lines and kind of messing everything up. But 100%. So you take that lesson and you kind of move on. So I'll be doing some paper trading today. I'll be taking some trades in my big boy account, but for my eval account, I'm kind of shut out right now.
Yeah, and and that's what you got to do sometimes, right? It's going to happen. I think that's why I also have my small limited, and then the one that I consider more like the main account, right? And I can kind of play around with different smaller names, testing around, especially on those really small limited accounts, because it's $90, right? Let's just be honest. It's not going to be anything that should really hurt me, but also can give me ability to try to play a certain strategy with that account and then another strategy with another account, right? And I think that that's the important thing there. Like I talk about, multiple tools in the tool belt, right? When you're an only one style trader, only one way, well, some days are going to be patient days where you gotta maybe not trade. And that's very hard. I'll tell you that right now.
Yes.
One of the hardest things to do for a day trader is to not trade.
Yeah.
I think it's harder than telling him that he needs to make $1,000 today. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Not doing something when we're used to doing something is usually very difficult. Right? And like I always like to say, discipline is not something that's just a given. It's an repeated action that you must take to get to that discipline, right? And it webs and flows. You can be disciplined one moment, and then all of a sudden you're not disciplined the next, right? And so it's like I talk about it. It's that repeated action that you want to be catching yourself with so that you can be consistent, right?
Yeah, and that's why I think systems are so important, because they just help you with that, right?
Yes.
And we're talking trading, but also personal life, right? I get up, I go to the gym at the same time every time, right? At the same time every day. You develop habits and systems in place, so that kind of keeps you on the straight and narrow. Now, do we want to hop into the map here? See kind of
Let's do it. Let's do it. Take over, my friend. It looks like a lot of shakeup, right? ADP though did come in kind of a little bit under than the expected, but market reacting positive. What are you seeing on the heat map?
It's more of the same. So this is a theme that we've been seeing yesterday and then today as well, where if we look at all the green on the heat map, so again, this is my personal ETF watch list. I go through each of these every night, and then I go through them again on the weekends and on the weekly charts and everything. We're seeing a lot of the same, right? We have natural gas is leading. You guys know I'm long natural gas in my big boy account, so that's fantastic. But it's, gold, silver, oil, DBC is the commodity index. A lot of this, boring but real world type stuff. We have financials, we have banks, a lot of the less crazy stuff out there. And then if we go to what's down the most, we have Bitcoin, we have a lot of technology and not doing so great. So we're seeing this kind of flight, I guess, to safety, flight to kind of boomer stocks. That's really interesting to me. Now, if you want to get a little bit of juice in this kind of energy theme that we're still talking uranium. So when it comes to uranium, right, we're down a little bit off the open on the actual indices, but this is an NLR that I brought to you guys the other day is starting to get interesting here, where we had this massive push up on NLR, and then it's just pulling back just a little bit. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. But if we go through all the sectors that are up the most of the day, we have, again, gas, we have gold miners, we have silver miners, just the gold ETF. OIH is another oil type name. So that, and then biotechs, which is very interesting. So IBB, which is a larger kind of biotech ETF, we're gapping up a little bit today. And then XBI, which is our biotech official sector from the spiders, that's up a little bit today. And then what's down the most, WGMI is our coin shares crypto miners. So they're not doing well, but that makes sense because we continue to have selling in Bitcoin as a whole. So it's kind of a flippening, right? For all last year, it's been tech, quantum this and Bitcoin and all this crazy stuff. And now, at least in the beginning of the year, we're seeing a flip where we're starting to see more gold and silver and copper and Jim Rogers, who's a famous hedge fund trader, would always say things that if you dropped on your foot, they hurt, right? Big kind of like real things. And then the last thing I just kind of wanted to show here is with the SPY, we are threatening. So this candle that I have right here, if we turn off pre-market action, this is the candle. This is the end of the year. So the beginning of the year, we got to look at the close. So that's kind of 384.5. We've been talking about this first 5 days rule for a while, and the fact that if we close positive, it's an 83% chance that it's a pretty good year. And if we close negative, it could be a little rough. So we're talking 84.55. And this morning, with that report, at least in a little bit, we threatened that. We got really close. So could be an interesting. I'm going to be really excited to watch the close today to see, does this first 5 day rule hold, or do we end up turning negative? And then maybe we got to worry a little bit more about how the year is going to go.
I think you're dead on, and I'm just looking out there, and I'm just like, where's the king? Is it off with his head? We'll find out. I mean, I think we need to be taking a look at it. Of course, the Trump mention with tariffs kind of scaring things into play there, and I think, like I've mentioned, I think there's just a lot of this kind of unknown, right? And especially in the beginning part of the year right now, and I think that with that being said, that's going to bring the volatility. Personally, I think yesterday was the question of what the hell happened to NVIDIA? Because, of course, like we could clearly see that, but will they just buy it back today? I think that's what we really need to watch for.
Yeah.
Because even as we were talking about it yesterday, we were talking, would we get the throwback look? It's exactly what we're getting now, right? And so now the question is, I think today's the day where you really know if the big boys want to be in this thing or not, right? Because it led with a whole bunch of kind of like volume starting to kick back up, right? Made sense for it to come into play at the beginning of the year as some profit taking had come to an end. Now you're starting to get the lift. Now the question is, can it keep up with this move? This is why I will also be watching what I think is going to be the best stock in tech in 2025. I'm looking at Apple. To see what happens there, because Apple's been on this nice little kind of declining action for the beginning of the year. So looking to see if maybe this could start to lift back and at least start to kind of raise the market. Of course, whenever I see the market, it has a tendency to bring us back, right? If there's something that brings us back, it's usually part of that Mag 7, right? And I think that that's what you're going to be looking for to see how those stocks look right now, to see what we're seeing there. What are you seeing there, Michael? What do you think about the big boys here and the setups that are kind of available to us?
So I think, you don't have to be a CMT. I think everyone kind of in the world is watching this area in Apple. So I just put up a stochastics, a 10-period stochastics. I actually read a study. This is what I do when I'm not on air. I just sit and read these studies. But someone using a 10-period stochastic combined with a 10-period Williams R on Apple and the SPY, and he ends up just blowing the returns of the market out of the water. So something I'm keeping an eye on. But when we're pulling back into a zone like this and we're starting to get that oversold reading, I think that's kind of an area where people get involved. So again, my favorite setup as a discretionary setup, if I could do it over and over again, if you took all my tools away, all my algos and everything, all I would do all day is look for prior breakout areas that they're coming back and they're acting as support. And if this ends up holding as support, or if we hold as support a little bit above this, I think that's going to be the buy on Apple. And, Apple is just such a huge component to the overall market. It's a bellwether. Everyone's looking to see if Apple's making money, the economy's good, because it's, people are buying the premium thing as opposed to the cheaper thing, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I 100% agree. I think Apple's going to be a huge deal. We have earnings 15 days away. So January 30th. So the end of the month we have for Apple. So it'll be interesting because a lot of people will take a lot of bets going into that earnings when it comes to these individual names. So yeah, this breakout area, we're talking 138, 137 on Apple. If we get down there, I think that would be a very interesting place to take a buy. We are already oversold. And you can see even with this, just a little bit of a look. Most times, right here, it didn't work, but most times when we get oversold here on Apple because it's just such a strong name, this is the area that you want to start buying. So we're getting close. It's looking good to me. It's obviously a name that is very important. And actually, every time I look at Apple, I always want to look at Berkshire just because I know he owns so much of it and seeing how that's doing. But this guy hasn't really been. Buffett's been chilling for a little bit, I guess. Hasn't really done
He's
anything.
been chilling for a long time, man.
Okay.
I try my best, man, Michael, not to hit the man, but I love what he did in his earlier time. But to tell you the truth, I mean, I feel like too many people give him too much, though, because I mean, Apple pretty
Ooh,
much
that's
made
a
this
strong
portfolio,
statement.
man.
Yeah.
Like I just from my reading and from everything that I've actually looked into how he made his money, I understand it, but I don't think it was anything like a special recipe, right? It was just a matter also of having a lot of money. Let's be honest, right?
Well, yeah, and having with him, I think it's just an exercise in patience, right? The man
Yes,
just these
1000%.
these are the names I'm buying. I'm holding them. He's been either the most loved or the most hated guy on Wall Street, depending, right?
Yeah,
When it was the .com bubble and he didn't touch any attacks, everyone there was plastering over the paper. The Oracle Omaha has lost his touch. I remember when I was trading in 2008, it was the same way because he was buying all these financials. He
yeah.
actually brokered a lot of these deals with Goldman Sachs and everything, and everyone saying the papers went through and right, this guy's crazy. What are you doing? He's lost his touch. But really, it's just a test of time. He
But
just buys and
and what
waits.
it teaches me is understanding, right? Like as investors overall, we're going to go through these periods, right?
Yep.
And we've gone through, maybe like a bubble environment if you traded in 2020, right? And then
Mhm.
we went through that bear market, right, style of trading and understanding how like euphoria can go to, more of that panic, right? And people like getting caught on the wrong side of trades for a long time,
Yep.
right? Some had to wait 2-3 years to get their money back. I think that's what we can learn, right? That's where we need to be as investors, ready for moments of panic, right? To be buying, right? And then also understanding when the euphoria is out there and ready to take profits, right?
This is one of my favorite charts. So this is a monthly chart of Microsoft, right? All the way back to the year 2000. We're going way back here, and I always
Woo-hoo.
bring up this chart and I remind myself of this action because a lot of people will just say, well, you buy and you hold forever. And if you're right, eventually, I guess, but you got to remember, so this is Microsoft. How many giant tech companies during the dot-com bubble never made it back? I think like Cisco's back. If we do the great financial collapse, Citigroup is still like 90% down from what it
Yeah.
was then. And look how long it took. If you were buying in March of 2020 or 2000, which was the high, took 16 years for you to get back to that price. Now, when it broke out, look at what happened after that. But imagine sitting underwater in a name for 16 years. And then we got to not only say, how much were you underwater for that time, but what was the opportunity cost if you had been moving your money into stronger names, moving your money into different things. This is why I always say it's way better to ignore chop, or as you said, wait till things get a little bit oversold and start to buy there,
Yeah.
as opposed to just sitting. Because if you got stopped out of Microsoft, say you bought at 50, you got stopped out at 30, that would have really hurt at the time. But then you had 16 years to get that money back, and then you bought it at 50 again in 2016, and now we're at 400, right? So it's really, really good to look at these charts. I think I probably still have Citigroup still annotated. Yeah, so this is Citigroup. This is 2008. It was $500 split adjusted. It's $73 right now. So just to show you that even the ones that come back when they break, they take a long time. A lot of them don't come back. And I remember I annotated all these charts to show people things like right Peloton and
Yeah.
Zoom, right? Even if they come back, and I was shouting from the rooftop during the pandemic that as these things were kind of crashing, it's time to get out. Because yeah, even if Zoom gets back to $600 a share, it's probably going to take those 16 years. And what could you do if you just got out of that position, found something else that was out of ties? But yeah, that's a chart I have annotated. I have it saved somewhere on my computer because it just reminds me that not only does it not make sense to hold on to things that you're underwater on from just a pure financial point of view, but that opportunity cost, that money could have been put somewhere else that would have been generating some kind of return.
I think that's very important. Let's go ahead. Let's take a look at maybe like a stock like Carvana today getting a ratings upgrade. And that's one stock that went down. Some thought that was going to zero. And I probably was in that camp at one point. And
Yep.
the turnaround's here, right? And I think that can happen, right? And it's more about environment in this case, right? And I think that's what you got to be always asking yourself with a lot of these stocks is what environment are we in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we in a growth? Are we in a value environment? Is this a momentum run, right? And I think that's what we clearly saw right now, just recently with like quantum, like you saw GME move, right? The memesters, some call it the dash for trash. That's usually the sign that we're getting towards the later end of that euphoric move. So now we'll be watching to see what themes can stay, right? What themes are going to be more 2025 themes than just a couple of weeks types of themes, right? So that's why I'm looking at Carvana. I've talked about my KMX outlook, used cars overall. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that when the average consumer goes to buy a new car now and they realize they're not paying a $20,000 price tag, not a $30,000 price tag, but a $40,000 to $60,000 price tag, they're going to get a rude awakening when they see that monthly payment, right? Especially with interest rates at what they are now, right? You're seeing some of the best deals that I've seen is like 5%. And that's like if you have like perfect credit. And in the US, you used to be able to get cars for 3%, 2% interest rates. And that's on good credit, right? Like maybe you're on bad credit. Maybe you got a 5% or a 7% interest rate, but that's on bad credit, right? Here, you're talking the best credit at 5% and the vehicle just appreciated in price 2x, right? And it's the same vehicle, right? And so that's why I think Carvana is doing so good though too, Michael, because the truth is they bought a bunch of vehicles at like probably $20,000 in this time that are now appreciated up to like 30, 40,000. They're making money on these used vehicles that they bought.
Well, and as to your point too, of you were talking about quantum earlier and how, hey, these guys should have spent their time when they had these inflated prices raising money. That's something that Carvana did, right? They had a short squeeze rally. It was one of those GME Wall Street bets kind of got together. They were like heavily shorted. Everyone said they were going bankrupt. And they had the short squeeze rally and they had the God-given sense to say, let's raise a bunch of money and go out there and buy a whole bunch of cars with that money. And that's what saved them. And then from a technical point of view, right, we were talking about how, you stay away when the things are crashing and and then get back in later. And a simple way to do that, I think, is the 200-day moving average. Not that there's any magic in it or anything like that, but not just whether you're above or below, but the slope, right? And I did a study. I can try to find the link, but that the slope of the moving average was as important, if not more important, than whether you're above and below it. And you can see if you had avoided Carvana when you're below a downward sloping 200-day moving average, right, from 250 down to near zero, and let's say you were very late to get back in, you waited till we were back above the 200-day moving average at 20 or 30. Well, I don't feel bad for you that you missed the 3 to 30 because now it's 30 to whatever, and you didn't have to worry too much about it. So yeah, just study trends, I think is kind of the takeaway. It's the most important thing when it comes to markets, I think.
Nothing like morning gold to get you guys started. So the market's open and let's get after it. I hope you guys appreciated that conversation. And like I mentioned, guys, keep like catching these moments and maybe writing down notes so that you can come back and look at the things that Michael and I are talking about. I promise you guys will start to understand a little bit further into understanding than just day trading. That's one thing that Michael and I are really about, understanding the markets overall. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out to us. Drop them in the comments. Drop comments after the show, right? Or hit us up on Twitter or X, right? We're always willing to try to help you guys get into this crazy world that's this financial journey, right? It's not just one area. It's fundamentals, technical, story, seasonality. There's so much to learn at. And like I always say, maybe just thinking about one area to learn a week, right? Maybe it's just, I want to learn tape reading this week, right? Find something and start building. Like you see Michael taking his eyes on studies and things like that. That's what really builds you up as a trader, right? Being that learner type that continues to push the limits. Let's get to the market. Let's go see what we're seeing right now. All right, I'll take a look really quickly at the sectors just overall, and I see what? Everything down from the open. Everything down, at least percentage-wise from the open. I will be watching the overall change and the change from the open to see which one of these sectors can go green at some point. I'll be looking for it.
Yeah, I think just for me taking a look at the SPY here, the obvious area to watch is yesterday's low, right? Are we gonna hold above yesterday's low? If so, I also have this gap noted. Remember, we were talking yesterday about how pulling into that gap was going to be important. We pulled in, we held. So now I think yesterday's low and this gap is the area to watch. If we can hold that zone, then I think we might be good for a little bit of a push higher. If we can't, then maybe not. Now, the two things that I'll say is that not only do we have FOMC or some minutes or whatever that what they're going to talk about later, we also then have a holiday tomorrow, right? Quite often before big events and before holidays, you get chop. So we have both a big event and a holiday. So we might be seeing that on the overall index. So I think it's important to understand that, not to say, hey, if there's some chop, you don't do anything, you run away, but you just curb your trading expectations anyway. You go, hey, I'm going to maybe take my profits a little faster. I'm going to wait for pullbacks. I'm going to do things like that as opposed to just hopping in expecting massive momentum moves.
All right, guys, taking a trade here with my smaller account already on CURR. So long here off of a kind of a red to green action here on the $3 spot. We were looking at this in the pre-market. So I just said, you know what? This was the same level. I don't like getting into them like right before the open. I like when they do this little washed out the bulls probably from the open right there towards the 260s. Now $3, big spot to watch to see if it can hold here. Move back down below the 280s, probably get me out here, but I'm just looking for a nice little pop above the 3, which could get us to 350s. Then things really start rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I'm just I'm doing something with my algos here. I think I may have pasted some lists in
down
wrong.
big. VIX jumping a little bit there just to state that. Definitely could keep your eyes on that trade today as you're seeing the market really start to come right back to the lows. We'll see what happens today. CURR getting a little pullback here. I'm going to hold right here on this 200-day if it comes right back up here. But if not, probably going to have to let this one go.
Yeah, certainly an interesting day. I think that level is going to be everything. Everything that I'm watching everywhere anyway, I think is going to be just yesterday's low and then this gap and see if we hold that, especially when JPOW gets up there. I don't know if he's talking today. I don't know if today's the day he yaps or if this is just where they kind of release those minutes. But anytime that guy has any say over the market, he kind of overwhelms everything that's going on. So I think it just becomes, do we hold that gap? If we hold that gap, how much do we hold it? How much do we bleed into it? There we go. I think I got everything fixed there. But yeah, so the idea, there we go. We're holding well. So now I'm just looking at this first 5-minute bar. Tried to sell off, tried to get into yesterday's range and get to yesterday's close, failed that. So the next move here, I think, could be very, very important, in which if we can kind of push to highs, then I want to watch, where is it? Right here. So we just anchor a VWAP from yesterday's range. So this sometimes becomes very interesting, just a 2-day VWAP. And the reason that VWAP is very important, again, a good buddy of mine, Brian Shannon, has been kind of doing this. Highly recommend his book about anchored VWAP that came out. just shows market sentiment and where it is. So this is where the average buyer is from yesterday and today. And you can see yesterday we came and we touched this VWAP. We failed pretty miserably. We tried again. We failed again. So if we can get above this VWAP, it just shows that the average market participant from yesterday and today is now making money. Things are positive and things are happy. But until then, you know, it's everyone's a little bit negative. Everyone's a little bit sad, underwater. So we need to see what's happening. Also, I'm looking up what's happening at CES. I know it's a multi-day event. I wonder if they're doing if Jensen is back or not. See if he could turn around. Maybe he'll just say, "Just kidding." What was the CFO who said talked about quantum computing? Maybe he'll just say, "Hey, I'm just kidding." Ripping them all back up. Who knows?
That'd be something else here, guys.
To
we'll see if I take a $200 hit there on the smaller account. Of course, this one only has a $300 ability. I already set the stop at this point, right? Gasol, a big bidder at the 277, looking to see if we can get back above that price. And you can see there's like this 3,000 now at the 73s. It was like 6,000 at the 77 just a little while ago. Looking to see if we can get this back above that 77 towards the 3 here. And then I'd like to see the quick pop off that 3. If it gets back to 3 and doesn't just quickly pop, I'll probably just get rid of it as the momentum not showing up.
Yeah, the SPY is trying to retake highs here. I was just watching UNG as well because, you know, I've been long UNG. Now
energy into the green from the open, just slightly. Wanted to note that. I was letting you guys know I'd look to see what would go green. Energy starting to go into green from the open.
So this would be for the definitely for the brave. But this RGTI actually came through one of the algos for a bit of an oversold bounce. Again, the idea is that it had a pretty bad day yesterday, and we're looking for an overextension moves, just measured in ATR. But this is one of those names I may take with my big boy account, but I want to see something that's telling me that we're holding here. So whether that is a break and a hold back above VWAP or a number of candles where we stop going down. This is one of those moments as a systematic trader. And this is the reason why I just don't put out these orders and walk away. I kind of want to watch the stock for an entry myself because the system doesn't know that the whole quantum computing sector is falling apart, right? It's just saying, hey, based off historical whatever, there's a 56% chance we close the day higher than $11. But myself, I know a little bit more. I can watch a little bit more. I can fine tune a little bit more. So I'm just going to watch for some action that says, hey, yes, we're holding. Right now, I'm thinking, again, just a break above VWAP or some sort of a nice washout candle, a big bottoming tail, you know, something I can lean upon. I'm just not interested, again, knowing that these are highly speculative sectors that kind of had the air let out of them yesterday. It doesn't make me want to just get right back in. And of course, if I trade this thing, it's going to be microscopically small because, yeah, they're wild. That's for sure.
All right, so you are right back to 3 here. Here's the decision-making moment here, right? I can do 2 things, right? Sometimes I will kind of minimize the risk opportunity here and maybe like downsize, but there's a nice little pop. That's what I'm talking about, guys. All right, now we can go ahead and I put $100 securing here just in case, boom, pulled back, got me. I'm fine with that, guys. Sometimes on these accounts, especially for the limited, I try to get like $200 on that. I got a nice like 140 pop there. I can try to get back in with the $100 that I just cashed it. And the truth is that a lot of times what I see on this one is a $3 pullback. So it gives me an opportunity to get back in right where I got in, right where I got in, right? 302, got out at 323 there. Let's see if it pops through the 350. This is the one I can tell you right now. The gurus and furus love the $3 to $10 range. So that's another reason why I was watching this CURR. This is like kind of that classic stock that I could see different gurus trading. And the setup makes sense. Wash out at the open. Then the volume starts to come back in. Now it's really all about, for me, do they rebuy 3 on the pullback? It would be a quick dip there. We'll see if it's just a wick and then the close back towards the high, which is around the 340. So I'd like to see this candle or the next candle on the 1 minute break that 340 after it pulls back closer towards 3. We'll see if we get that.
CURR. So RGTI, again, it's down another $1 from what we talked about before. So
it's hard to short those too, because this morning I part of me was like, come in and short them, Mitch. But man, that's tough. That's tough because they were dropping fast. Did you see Jasper this morning?
JSPR, is that one?
JSPR. I'm sure you've heard of it before. Look at this stock this morning.
17 down to 8.
Dude, in the pre-market, it was at 7 a.m. It was at $28.
Whoa, yeah.
Michael, I watched this one around 1860, and I was like, man, I just want to get short this, but this is dangerous. Oh, man.
That was some algo got something really wrong up there. There's some program
really wrong, guys.
Have a bad day.
See, you are now towards that 350 really expansion spot. So maybe took the cash a little too fast today. I never get mad about those moments because cash is what pays, but it definitely CURR, not a bad stock. Now is the hot spot, right? The 350 buys. And you can see there some good volume coming in here. And one thing that I do, and I don't know if you do this, Michael, but I talk about this often, is trying to sometimes filter out the time in sales. So I try to filter out the time in sales to show me bigger orders, because really the algorithmic flow, I have a tendency to just not even pay attention to it. I want to catch orders like what I just saw, which was a 20,000 share order, right?
Yeah.
And things like that, because that's going to move the market, right? 20,000 shares at 370, right? That's why I pulled back off of that, right? I mean, and I think that's more important to me than the 100 shares that are just flowing through.
Well, and this is from a guy, just to preface, we weren't allowed to look at charts when I started to trade. They didn't believe in charts. It was all level 2. And this was back before the computerization of the market and all this kind of stuff. Everything was level 2. Charts were voodoo. You weren't allowed to look at them at all. Even that being said, I don't look at level 2 anymore. And for the reason you talked about, there's a lot of kind of games that happen around there.
Yeah.
Now you're right. You know, if someone's putting up a 20,000 share order, they're trying to at least push the market down. So maybe there's something that you can take off of that. I will say that anybody who is trading very large and anybody who is someone who is sophisticated in the market, you're not seeing their orders, right? You know, even in the way. Oh yeah,
it's all the orders, man.
Even myself, right? For the systematic swing trading that I do, I don't show my orders. And I'm just using interactive brokers. I'm not some giant hedge fund. I can do iceberg orders, and I can do refreshing orders, and I can do hidden orders and all that kind of stuff. Because if I'm trading something that's a liquid, I don't want people to know. And I'm not a massive hedge fund. I'm just a single guy. So you can better believe. And I know, again, from working in these hedge funds for a long period of time, they're not showing you a 50,000 share order. So generally speaking, what you're seeing when you see those orders flash up, it's another large retail guy. And that might be information as well. Because if that guy doesn't want to actually sell the shares there and he gets chewed up real quick, it may have been somebody who was trying to scare the market down, and he's having a bad day. So that's the kind of thing that I think you can look for now, is just understanding that anybody who's showing orders on level 2 is a very unsophisticated trader, which is information in and of itself.
Well, here's a swing trade alert for you guys. One of my top swing trades last year was a short on Macy's, and starting to break down again. This is one that I think will, in 2025, get to single digits. So I'm looking at this one, and Macy's really getting hit hard there. And the big outlook for me is what they've been telling me, not necessarily what I've been thinking, right? They're telling me they're closing stores. They're telling me they're doing bad in 2025. The guidance is horrible out there. And that tells me enough, right? And then I think about the environment overall for big box retailers. I mean, Macy's is in trouble. I think so. In the long run, I think I see Macy's as a J.C. Penney's, a Sears type of story, the same way I see KSS in the long run too, right? I mean, look at the action that you're seeing on those. right? There's a reason why I think you're seeing them going down towards like single digits when they used to be like $65 KSS, right? I mean, I just don't see the way that these hold on here. So Macy's starting to cut down through that 1650 was a big level for me. Now cut 16. Now it starts to really look heavy here.
Yeah, so taking a look, so the SPY is still holding on, still hasn't moved very much. Nice little bottoming tail, including the pre-market actions, and again, still holding above yesterday's low. But if we go to the RSP, right, and I always talk about the RSP because this is the equal weighted S&P 500. It's a little bit better of an idea of what the average stock out there is doing. We're below yesterday's low. This is starting to look a little bit like a bear flag that could break down and continue lower. So it seems like we're kind of in that market where when you have the SPY holding on, and which is just really weighted to those big guys out there, your Nvidias and Teslas and Apples and all that. But we have the kind of any man, the average schmo, the average market participant, that's pushing lower. Well, we have a little bit of a divergence there, and those divergences make me slightly nervous because I hold some of these big names, but I hold more of the average stock, and the average stock isn't looking too hot. So when these split, you can see if you look at the RSP topped in November 29th and just bled for days and days and days, well before the S&P 500 had that push down. So quite often, if you have the average stock having a really bad time, eventually the cap weighted index usually catches up. Same and the opposite can be true. If the average stock is doing great, eventually it catches up. But yeah, we're having that divergence go on, and we need to pay attention that if we have one of these big names give it up again, then we could see the S&P 500 hitting new lows for sure.
Big downside action today in utilities, healthcare, communication services leading the downside action there. Now healthcare is starting to get a little bit of the bounce. So I'm looking for where the bounce is. And you guys will see on my screen, a lot of the times what I try to do is I have this little kind of overall sector scanner right here on the top right. And I'm looking to see really the kind of the change between overall change, which is this column here. And you see everything red there, right? The change from the open, this is just daily. What has happened today from the open, you see energy up. And then in the last 15 minutes, what is up? Because sometimes I'll start comparing what's up for the day from the open, also from the 15 minutes to try to find what's holding, right? So now from the open, energy's up 0.3 in the last 15 minutes, 0.26. So that's where I'm seeing some momentum come back in. Basic materials, some momentum coming back in. Communication services and healthcare. Financials, 0.01, so pretty much neutral there. And then what's getting hit right now? Technology, utilities, and real estate leading to the downside there. And these are equally weighted. So a lot of the times, that's why I look at these also, because I just want to see it on an equally weighted basis versus a leading type of name. But we'll see what happens here, guys. Looking interesting. And if I look at, let's say, in technology, is there anything that's doing okay? Let's take a look here. Maybe some solar. No, solar's getting hit hard. 2% down there. SEDG had a nice downgrade they put out there. Of course, you know how the banks are, the lemons.
The good way to visualize is just this too, right?
There you go. Let them know what's going
mean?
on out there.
Yeah, if you just wanna, that's what I love about these heat maps and stuff. Again, as a quant, as a data
I
nerd,
love gold.
there's a lot of red on that screen. And then, yeah, everything that's green, 100% right. You've got natural gas, you have gold, you have silver. A lot of this stuff is, again, like we talked about this morning, stuff you drop on your foot and it hurts. But just look at the sea of red here. And this has been, I've been watching this all morning. It's been growing. So, unless we get a turnaround pretty quickly in some of these names, then, we could see we could see maybe this continue to grow, more sectors down. But yeah, definitely you want to be looking at metals, you want to be looking at oil, that kind of thing. I've been watching this natural gas, I've been talking about it a couple days now, just looking to see if we can maybe get back through this $17 area. Maybe I add to my natural gas position. If it's the only thing in the world that is up, doesn't mean it's it's usually a good idea to buy the only thing that's existing that is up. RGTI still hitting new lows, so still not giving me any sign that it's interesting to get into at all. I still have my anchored VWAP here as well below that, but I'm just watching this. Another dollar down since the last time I mentioned this. At some point, I'm definitely going to pull that trigger. I'm going to hit the button because the algorithm set at 11 to take a look at it. We're now at 10. So if I can get some type of consolidation, some sort of range to play off of, I will take a shot. Now, again, when you're doing this kind of revision to the mean type stuff, you're not trying to marry it. You're not trying to be there forever. You're definitely not averaging down if it goes against you. You're picking your spot and you're saying, I think this is a little bit stressed. I think that people that are short may look to take some profits here. That will cause a little bit of bounce. Take your money and then move on. I think that's part of the problem with people when they do some sort of revision to the mean playing is they're expecting it to, they look at those all-time highs and they think there's a chance that it's going to get back there. I'm not buying this at 10 thinking it's going to go to 18. I may buy it at 10 hoping it goes to 11 or 12 and then kind of move on with my life. If you're trend following, you can kind of shoot for the moon. If you're trying to buy stuff that's selling off, I think you need to be a little bit quicker with it.
Short VIX there, guys. Short VIX VXX at least here, guys. The way I'm taking this trade is based on the 15-minute kind of resistance here for the 48 rejection. Starting to see NVIDIA start to get a little bit stronger. Starting to see Microsoft get a little bit stronger. A stock that's up, I got to give a shout out to my man Steve. Roblox is up today, so we'll see what happens on that one. But looking to see if the market's going to start turning a little bit here, get a little bit of a bounce. AMD is one that I'm looking at here. So of course, like kind of the 48 period right now, 48.02. It can get to like maybe 48.05. I'll risk off this kind of 48.10. Just got about 200 shares, so I can give myself a little room here towards that 10. That's only about an $80 risk. Normally on this account, I can get up to like $160, $200 risk here. Let's see if this can start to break back down here. Big thing for me is looking to see if maybe they catch some of the bears now. It's about to be 10 o'clock. Let's see if we start to see a little bit of a swing.
Yeah, I'm looking here. There is a number at 10. It doesn't seem like it's interesting. Final wholesale inventories, don't even know what that is. Crude inventories at 10:30 may be very interesting. Because we are talking a lot about energy and oil because it's one of the sectors that is doing well in this market. So that's at 10:30. So that might be interesting. Natural gas at 12, and then of course FOMC minutes at 2. So again, my expectation is chop. Although we are breaking yesterday's low here in the S&P 500, but the way I look at it, I always try to figure out what the institutions are doing because they're the guys who are actually going to move it. If I'm a massive institution, I'm waiting for those minutes to come out before I place, my positions. I'm not going too crazy. So then what you end up doing, if I'm right, is you get these retail traders fighting and it just creates choppier action, which again, 100%. Isn't necessarily a bad thing. You just have to curb your trading accordingly, like Mitch is doing. Maybe some revision to the mean trading. You're buying support, selling resistance, but we got to see what's happening here at the lows on the at the S&P 500 here, where
SPY hitting hard down right now.
Yeah, we're at yesterday's low. We put in a little bit of bottoming tail, and we're bouncing a little bit. So again, more of that kind of choppy action, which. Again, it's not as fun to play as buying something and having it rip, but it's a play nonetheless. So we'll see what happens. I want to keep an eye on the actual number. Oh, we're only down 0.24%. Because again, we talked about that 1% up or down algorithm that a lot of hedge funds will use to say, hey, if we're up 1% on the day, down 1% on the day, maybe we take the other side. But nice little bleed into yesterday's low and then a little bounce from that. It's got to be good for your VIX there.
Yeah, I saw a nice little rejection there. I'm looking to see if it can kind of hold here. Another thing that I look at a lot of the times is, so this is kind of like, you would count this maybe like the fourth attempt to kind of wave up on a kind of a 1 minute. And so a lot of times that's when I start to look for the reversal, right? So I can draw it out on the screen there. There's one peak there. There's two, right? There's three. And then a lot of times you get that pullback after the three. It's going for the breakout look. And that's essentially what I'm shorting at. I'm shorting the breakout look, right? That's the breakout look right here. Goes back towards the high of the day right now and want to see kind of a attempt to go above that So maybe some volume to come in, some profit taking showing up there. You can see the volume coming in there, some profit taking. Now let's see if they take it to the next level, right? And this is also looking at the overall market and just seeing the cues. I saw Nvidia start to prop up a little bit. I saw Apple like kind of hanging out there. I was looking at Amazon starting to recover, Microsoft. So I'm looking at the big boys, like I say all the time, because if the big boys can start to lead back, that's normally when I see the market start to lead back, right? So I'm looking at the big boys here to see if we can get them back through their opening price.
Yeah, that VIX going to move pretty contrary to the overall market, right? So if you have the market selling off, you generally have a VIX moving higher. If you have the market holding, you know, if we go just down to a 1 minute here, you can see that kind of bleed through we did of yesterday's low, and now it looks like we're retaking it. So I think the day gets pretty easy there. If you just want to mark that yesterday's low and just say, okay, if we are above that, might be interesting to start taking long positions, playing against that support. If we break below that on any significant manner, then it's probably time to go and look for other things. Our GTI is still the only thing that has come through the systems today. Trying to hold on here at this kind of $10 area. I may take a shot at it. I think I'm going to wait until VWAP gets taken. If we can take VWAP and we can break above that, then I think I'll probably pick that up. I'll put in like a $9 stop or something and see if we get some sort of a bounce. Now, again, revision to the mean is high probability, but you're not going to, you know, this thing isn't going to, I highly doubt is going to go from $11 to like 20. I'm looking to maybe risk $1, make $1.50 on it, be right a little bit over half the time, and then move on from there. Because again, these things are getting beat up hard. But I could see kind of like the last hurrah of retail come in, you know, seeing these things down as low as they are, getting hit as hard as they are. I could see them come in, go, oh look, you know, it's down half of what it was yesterday. Let me take a look at. I think those bounces will be sold into by institutions, but I think we could have a couple of those. So that's what the system's looking at. It's also looking at this SYPR from yesterday, but I remember this SYPR. You can see selling off here again, looking at this candle and saying this is an unusual down candle, and we've done that ATR extension from there. Might take a shot in this one as well, but you know, it's only 82,000 shares traded in this name today, so I would need to see a little more volume to get involved.
Stopped out there, VIX, $106 on the main account. Of course, I got 106 on the pretty much the other account too, so it's kind of funny. 106. Oh no, 100 right on the dot. So 106 down on the main account. On the other account, got 100. So let's keep it going. Didn't want to, you know, get risky there as the VIX started to pop there towards the high, right? So I got out right there, right? So sometimes you got to get out while you know the getting's good, right? So 48.20 there, the high there as it went right to the high. I said, yeah, let me get out here. Now it could still kind of break down. It could be a little bit of a wick attempt here, but I was looking for a momentum move. So a lot of times I need that to start happening fast. If not, the momentum can go against me and I can really get caught and run over. Always the key, like my man Michael says, right? Got to survive until you get that trade, right?
Exactly. Very interesting that the VIX is, you know, just, you know, bring it up here. Just look at the trend here of the VIX. And then, you know, this is a 2-minute chart, right? So we're well above yesterday's high, well above yesterday's high. We've been trending higher all day on the VIX. Then you look at the SPY, it hasn't done anything. You know, we're above yesterday's low and we've been just chopping sideways. So this is very interesting where you're seeing this divergence. Generally speaking, they'll move in lockstep. You know, you have the SPY make reversed at that lows, you'll see the VIX reversed at that high, and quite often they're pretty contrary indicators. So I don't know what to make of it. It's something I got to think about now. But when you see a VIX divergence, I start to get again, not worried, but I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because again, for those who don't know, the VIX goes higher when people buy more puts on the S&P 500. Basically, people are buying protection. They're getting worried about what's going to happen in the market, so they're buying the S&P 500. Does this mean, Mitch, that people, large institutions, are buying a bunch of protection going into this FOMC nonsense? Is that what we're seeing? People are getting a little bit worried about what J Powell might do to them.
Yeah, I think it's I honestly don't think it's the banks. I think it's actually more retail being panic scared. One thing is, I came into the market today thinking that, and I try to ask myself a lot of the times, where's the max pain today?
Hmm.
Where can the market inflict the max pain today? Well, yesterday I felt like, and I use a lot of social media sentiment to kind of tell me this, right?
I
And
love
you can
doing that. Yeah.
clearly see it, right? There's a lot of bearishness immediately
Yeah.
yesterday after that quantum move,
Hmm.
and the bears come out yelling. And I've been one of those bears, but I've learned over time that when you want to go out yelling, it's probably the wrong time, man. And that's when you got to catch them. That's when it can catch those bears, because like I always say, the market loves to stop out both sides, right?
Yep.
Loves to stop out the bears and the bulls and then move.
Do you have a list of your favorites? I have a list of my favorites, bears. I won't mention their names. I think that's kind of rude, but I've got a couple individuals that you don't hear anything from. They're talking about like personal
Yeah.
journeys and all this kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden the market ticks down and they are loud about the market. And I've used that a few times as an
Yeah,
indicator
man.
where it's like, yeah, this guy is getting real loud. He's getting real cocky right now. Maybe I should buy some stocks. And uh, again, it seems kind of mean, but you're right. That's how the market works.
That's how the
The
market loves to work, man.
If you are, and I can explain the mechanics, it's not voodoo, it's nothing, crazy. But if I'm a large institution, if I'm looking to buy billions and billions and billions of dollars of something, I can't chase new highs, right? I'm going to push the market 10%. I'm going to get killed. I'm going to get blown out, and there goes my job. I need I need to buy into weakness, and I need to sell into strength. So yeah, quite often, if I can dump 5 million shares at what I think is a very important point to the market to break it, trigger a whole bunch of retail stops, and then use that to buy my $2 billion worth that I need to, I'm going to do it. And that might have been what happened this morning. Look, we down ticked yesterday's low, which is right here. I'll draw it out. So this was yesterday's low. We're on a 5-minute chart right now. We ticked under it
Right?
just enough to probably sucker in a bunch of shorts, probably enough that people put their stop loss under yesterday's low, trigger that, and now we're reversing. We're getting close to the high of the day, right? Which would be, yeah, right here. This is the 10:30 candle. My time's a bit weird. Market home's at 10:30 for me, close at 5. And we're getting close to hitting new highs. And if we do end up going to new highs here, then yeah, everybody who got stopped out in this little wick, they're having a bad day. They may have to chase at highs, and we'll see. Now, I am very much still watching this purple line. Again, this is the anchored view app from yesterday's sell-off. If we get above there, that means the average price from that sell-off to now has reversed, and we've started to push higher. That's something that I'm looking at to see if that's going to act as resistance. We are certainly above the view app from today, which is right through here. So you can see we struggled and struggled and struggled. Right now, there's only 2 minutes left in this candle. Looks like we're closing above there. I'd be shocked if we don't take out the highs, and then we'll see what happens at this zone right here. Might be an interesting trade just from here to there. Actually, I'll load up my big boy real account. I think I'm going to buy some futures just to see if we get from this little zone to this little zone with a stop under the low here.
Well, here's the action I see on technology. Remember, I was trying to point to change from the open and 15 minutes. Now you got technology leading. You got technology just neutral from the open. And that's a big sign for me. And now you see what? Healthcare on the bottom side of things. Energy now still holding on a little bit. So I'll look to see if that goes red. And then now we're getting cyclicals to come back too. That tells me more and more, a little bit, maybe potentially of a market little comeback here, right? And so I'll be watching that action here. We'll see what happens. And now we're starting to get that tech move right back. So I'm watching like AMD, seeing if it can do one more down attempt towards 122. And then that would be kind of that fourth attempt. 1, 2, 3. I look for that fourth washout attempt and then recovery. We'll see if we get it.
Yeah, back to RGTI. This is, again, the reason why I made the plan that I made. We came back to that anchored view app, just rejected from it pretty strongly. So still no trade. And again, the beauty of it is that I have a system that says, here is the percentage chance and the equity curve and all that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, I get to apply just some human thinking and just saying, hey, these things are completely falling apart. I maybe don't want to be the first one to catch the first leg, but if we can hold and we can break through this anchored view app, I think that's where I'm going to get involved. And then same with the SPY, right? Here's the SPY. You could have very easily said, if I don't want to buy the SPY until we get above VWAP. We closed above that. If we go to a 5-minute, we closed above that for the first time today, right above that now. So again, I'd be shocked if we don't at least challenge highs. So I do have an order out just to pick some up if we get through this kind of 588 area, and then see what happens if and when we get to 590, which is the 2-day VWAP. And that would be kind of show us what the average market participant's feeling from this candle right here, which is, a lot of people had a bad day with that candle. So if we can get back above the anchored VWAP from there, maybe we start to challenge new highs anyway.
Well, bringing up we're maybe missing out on one of the best moves of the day, which is eBay.
Oh, of course.
eBay ripping here, and ripping higher after it looks like it's testing with Meta. So Meta testing eBay listing on Marketplace to comply with EU order. So this is actually pretty massive, I think, for eBay. A lot of times I was thinking, even just last year, like, how the hell is eBay still around with all these marketplaces that come out, right? Well, this could bring them back, right? Now getting access to essentially Facebook's subscriber base, right? Meta's subscriber base to sell to them, right? And so I think this is something to watch here. This move is catching some move. And what do you see? The lemons knew about this, man. 2 up ratings in the last 2 days. On there was an upgrade on Tuesday and an upgrade on Monday. You think someone knew about this?
Absolutely. Look at that now we're talking long term here. Look at that monthly chart. Nice,
yeah, dude.
Giant cup.
Crazy.
Challenging. So what's the highs here? We're talking like $77. Could be in play, right?
Yeah, I think with a move like this, I just look at the 15-minute candles and I'm looking at 15 minutes. Can you come back to me, right?
Yeah.
Can you come back to me? Because I can't play it like that, right? I can't play it when on the top end of that Bollinger Band with this type of expansion and think that I'm going to stay in the green. Maybe scalping here is a possibility, but that's not my game, right? So I'd look for pullbacks back towards like 68 or 69. If not, I'd be looking even deeper towards the hourly, like 67 on the pullback. But this is one that I'd be looking at to say, hey, I missed the first drive. Where can I catch the pullback, right? So looking at maybe some resistance, prior resistance around 68, 67, that'd probably be the area that I'd be looking for if I could get any type of pullback.
Yeah, 100%. Where I'm just going to go and take a look at this again. Starting to see actually more green on this side, right? ARC actually triggered to the green side, which relative outperformance in ARC is always something that's you haven't seen that a lot.
Kathy, the Omen.
Yeah, she's coming back. And then we've got the Qs down only 0.05%. XLB, which is our materials, 0.05%. So we're starting to climb back. And again, this is a really good sentiment indicator for me. A lot of red shows me obviously a lot of red. But then again, I always, even when the show's done, I've got this up on a corner of my screen. I'm watching it, and you can see seas of green start to come out, and then seas of red start to come out, and you can kind of see when that starts to occur, and you say, okay, things are starting to lighten up a bit. So we've seen more green than our last check-in. Still very heavy in materials and metals and real boring stuff, but if we're going to get that move, we got to start there. So we see the Qs maybe going green here, maybe just went green on the Qs. So we broke that high. We're going green on the Qs. That can't be a bad thing. A lot of traders I know like this red to green type play, trying to get involved. Now, again, I'm not going to be too excited to be aggressively buying or aggressively selling because of J-Pow's coming, right? And if we know J-Pow's coming, then we know whatever happens before J-Pow speaks is a bit irrelevant to the market. So we just want to be taking our money when and where we can get it.
The big bad wolf that is Jerome Powell. He might blow the house down.
Yeah, or you never know, right? We could be up 4% at the end of the day, or we could be down. I don't think he speaks today. I was looking into it. I think it's just minutes, and I think minutes is
just minutes, man. And minutes don't give us much, right?
No. But right, oh man, and I'm just gonna date myself here. I remember back in the day before, JPOW is the first FOMC chair that has been this vocal. They never chatted before then. They would just come, and on the day before, I remember people back with Volcker, which is before my day. I'm not that old, but they would try to, when he pulled out his file folder and put it on the desk, they would start to buy or sell based on how thick it was. If it was thin, then they said he's probably bullish. So they would buy stock. If it was super thick, they would go the other way. So, but now we're just he says everything, so we're just waiting. Natural gas, we got the market selling again. We're going back to lows, so this choppiness continues. However, UNG, my girl, breaking to new highs. So,
hey, wisdom, this guy's playing the Widowmaker.
oh, I have a irresponsible amount of natural gas going on. So
Wisdom's gonna love that in the chat. You'll see. He'll love that
good.
one for sure.
That's good.
We've had so many jokes about natural gas. Remember back in the kind of the 2020 time and out of the pandemic and 2021, everyone was like, "It's going to the moon. Russia's going to war."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll see, man. It usually isn't then, and then all of a sudden, everyone starts paying attention to it, right? It's usually when people go to sleep.
Well, it's funny. There's a guy I follow on Twitter who just follows Zero Hedges tweets. And talking about and just pins them right to the top and goes, yeah. So Zero Hedge at like $1.20 was tweeting about how the world's running out of natural gas and all that. Now at $14 isn't saying anything. But for those who missed, I think it was Monday I was talking about really basic idea on this swing trade, this more longer term trade. I've got some options, I got some stocks, that kind of thing. The idea is that if you go back on the 200-day moving average on UNG, super important, right? It was support back at 70s, it was resistance up here at 90s, it was resistance the last couple of years. Every time we hit this yellow or orange line, we just reversed dramatically from it until a couple days ago, where we gapped above it, pulled back and retested it, and now we're holding. So my idea is simple. I'm accumulator of natural gas as long as we hold above this line. If we break significantly below it, I'm out. I'm wrong. It's time to go. Targeting to see if we kind of get back into even this consolidation that we broke down from, which would put us around 27 or so. That's nearly a double. So I'm risking $2 or $3 to make 15. So again, the way I look at it is that I don't need to be right very often in order to make that a positive expected value trade. So I'm going to get involved again. A lot of things like options, just because again, they call natural gas the Widowmaker for a reason. She can gap up 10%. She can gap down 10%. So with options, I can just define my my risk. I'm assuming that if I'm wrong, these options are going to go to zero. So again, I'm not risking the house. Someone's asking for quantum stuff. It's over. I don't know what else to say. It's this was a very speculative play on companies that don't have anything yet. They're just researching a thing. They don't have anything to sell. So this was kind of a hype on what could be. And one comment kind of broke the back of it. So again, our GTI came through one of my algos. I said, this is the idea. I want to hold. I wanted to hold a VWAP. I wanted to hold. Maybe I could anchor a VWAP from here now. But I wanted to do something to show to me that there's some strength coming in. But I'm not excited to buy these names in any respects, just because if one guy can say one thing about your sector and it's down 50%, that should tell you a lot about your sector. One guy can come out and say, I hate Apple tomorrow, and it won't move. I don't care if it's Trump. If he comes out and goes, I'm not a fan of Apple, it's probably down like 2%. It's definitely not down 50%.
And it's ruining not just the quantum trade, right? Ruining the momentum trade overall. Let's say like RCAT, a drone maker, right? This looks like it's also dropping down today. Just to give you guys perspective there, got cut out of another VIX trade, 83 on that one, down about 190 here. Started seeing the drop towards the 490s, was looking to see if the kind of the hourly lows would hold on the Qs. We're right around that area here. So this is usually where I see institutions try to take the shot on an undercut and rally. So I'm trying to look to see if that's what we get here. Even AMD, I was looking at it here around the 121.80s and wondering wondering, would we start to kind of come back here towards the 123s? So looking to see if we start to get the action, some of the big boys start to turn back around here. If not, it's really not looking good here. And it could be one of those days where the struggle's there. Apple, of course, one of my major watches, right above the VWAP, just sitting there. But look at the action that's going on in NVIDIA. I think that's one of the big actions definitely to watch here. Down to 140, was starting to climb back. And that's tough. That's tough to see NVIDIA like it is right now. If it can't get back towards that 144 today and it closes down closer towards, let's say, 135, ain't going to be looking so hot there, I think, on NVIDIA, especially, let's say, if you got caught up there at 150. You're definitely scratching your head today, wondering what the hell did I do yesterday?
Well, and our first 5-day rule watch is in question. So I'm actually going to mark to the low. So let's get rid of this just to clean up some things. This price right here, so that black line, that is the close of the first day. So no, it's probably actually this one, I think. I have to check. So we are right at, or at least right near, which would quantify this first 5 days. Again, 83% chance the market moves higher. If this first 5-day rule doesn't work out, then there's only like a 50-50 chance the market's higher. And on average, if the first 5-day rule holds, you're talking 12% average gain. And if the first 5-day rule doesn't hold, you're talking 2% average gain. So it's a lot of this looking at what's going to happen, but also the magnitude of it, right? So are we having a large magnitude event? Are we having a good year, or are we potentially having a choppy year? And again, an 83% hit rate is a pretty wild hit rate when it comes to this kind of trading, and when it comes to investing as a whole. There's not a lot of things out there I can point to that have that kind of a hit rate. So we got to see what's happening today. So it's funny, it's all in Jay Powell's hands. He's either going to save us or he's going to tank us. Now, again, choppy year, again, not a bad thing, right? It just means we have to change what we're doing. If we are going to have that choppy year, we got to switch that up. We got to change, so less of maybe breakout and momentum playing when it comes to things like quantum computings and things that don't exist, speculative ideas, and more of just
Short
probably
VIR.
buy the dip, sell the rip, right? So
taking a little bit of a high flyer here and trying to get after it. It's 64% up on the day. Getting short a little bit of VIR, and this is an account that I have the green on the day, $100 cushion from that CURR trade. So shorting their VIR, as I see here, and the overall kind of the way that I see this is essentially this has gone one move, two moves, three moves, tried the fourth and failed. So now I'll start to look to see that it can kind of hold this resistance and kind of start rejecting it. This was an important candle right here where it tried to get back above, went to 1318, gave that look like it was going to go back to the high, and now it starts to reject the 9 EMA. Now I'd like to see just washing bid action showing up on the time and sales and the level 2 to show that declining action continuing in VIR. Of course, these are ones that could go and then easily right back down. So we'll see what happens. Look at the daily chart on this thing. Yeah. Big extension towards this high over here on the kind of the June 5th period. So in my eyes, this thing came back towards this kind of high over here, this area, trying to come for this gap fill. We'll see what happens if it can start to just crumble right back down.
Yeah, so I took some of, let's go in here. Something came through the algo that was finally not quantum computing. So ARIS, never heard of this one before. Looking over here, 250,000 shares trade today. So not insanely liquid, but still something to keep an eye on. Aris Water Solutions. They work in the oil and gas industry, some sort of, like oil tech related. And again, the idea is pretty simple. Behind this algorithm, it's looking for a unusually wide day on day 1, and then an overextension on day 2. So this one's a little bit more chill. I think it's just a good one to take, especially in my big boy account, where I'm looking at this $22 area. It's been chopping around here for some time. The S&P 500 again is looking like it's trying to dig in, right? I mentioned chop, and that's exactly what we're seeing, right? We come down to these lows. we push up higher, we get to the highs, we sell off. And this heiress type of thing is, yeah, it's holding on. So I'm just buying some around this $22 area. I'll risk a buck on it. ARIS. Right, so I'm going to risk down to about $21 on this name today, and we're just trying to see if we can get a little bit of revision to the mean, right? So that's the idea behind it. It's got about a 56% win rate, 1.5 risk reward. Again, I've gone back to 20 years to do it, so I know it's roughly 50-50 chance I'm going to make money on this one. But yeah, sometimes you grab these ones and they actually end up being a low. A lot of the quantum computing names are coming in, like QSI and RGTI. I've just been kind of avoiding those until, again, some sort of bottoming action is something that we can take a look at, right? So
adding a little bit there to that VIR, and I got about 200 shares looking for the action to come down here. SPY and Q tried to bounce there. Let's see if it starts to break down there. I won't push it too much with this VIR. Just trying to risk like maybe $30 here. If it comes back towards the kind of the 1280s, it could reclaim 13 and really start to go. The idea is for big bar to come into play here towards 12. And then you start to really wash out kind of the opening action. Opening action was right around this level. So a lot of times I look to see if we can wash that opening level back out. That a lot of times can wash some of the bulls. So we'll see what happens here.
yeah, so this is the way I'm looking at this right now. Is it's kind of, I don't know, it's bullish action to me, as much as I can see in the market. It's just we keep challenging these lows, the under yesterday's range, but they keep coming in, right? They keep coming in to buy them, not super aggressively. So now what I need to do is I need to see if they, quote unquote, fail, right? So I want to see some sort of a significant move, a candle close on a higher time frame, like a 15 or a 30, saying, okay, yes, we are taking yesterday's low, we're closing below it, something like that to occur, where again, with this choppy action could be what we see all day, but it's just not really giving me conviction one way or the other. So I think we're kind of in buy the dip, sell the rip, that type of environment going forward. The SPY, again, hitting lows there, trying to get down. The Qs, again, the Qs are a little bit weaker, right? And that's kind of goes to what we were showing here when it looks to this chart right there. That's looking way more red, right, than the last time we looked at it. So looks like a lot of the XLV healthcare, for example, gave up, so no longer green. We're red on the day on that one. Now we just have natural gas. This PFIX is just an interest rate hedge. Shows me whether people are worried about raising interest rates or lowering interest rate. GDX, silver, gold, and DBC is a commodity ETF. So unless you are in commodities, basically you are having not a great day today. So we need to see something else take hold. Even USO now is down on the day. So yeah, we need to see something take hold here, something to hold up in some way, shape, or form, with the Qs and the SPY just flirting with these lows, bouncing around, more or less waiting for JPOW to come on and give us some direction on the day. JPOW. Could be that turns out just to be chop as well, right? We have the minutes. The minutes are not a rate decision. They're not anything like that. What they do is they read every word in these. Nowadays they feed them into an AI, and it reads every word of these and tries to see how likely future rate hikes and cuts are going to be. So it can cause this movement if there is something in there that says this is what occurred. I've seen nerds go through it and they'll actually take the last statement and then this statement and they'll highlight every single word that has changed, and they'll try to guess how many of those words are hawkish versus dovish versus all of these type of things. And yeah, we're getting nice little bounce right off the lows here.
Yeah, getting some good love out there. Definitely from the chat. Also, I did go long here, AMD here, guys. So taking a little bit of a shot on AMD bottoming out. And we'll see what happens with that action now. It's going back towards this 122 area. And when it was right around here, it was a chance to go long here. And then I was like, okay, come for the washout. Wash out all the guys that had bought, and now let's see if it starts to come back. So now I'm going to look to start to see if we can get a pickup of volume through the VWAP to show me that buyers want to step in now versus step in on that recent dip. So we'll see what happens now. Can the Qs start to make its way back? Of course, you can see how they're starting to get up here. I'm willing to take the shot. AMD got the downgrade, and I think you know how I feel about the banks. Sometimes they're lemons. So we'll see what happens here as AMD back down. Can it get back into the green? NVIDIA would be a good watch there. If NVIDIA can take that kind of high on the intraday 144, I feel like we start to really push and start to squeeze some of the bear action that probably came in the first half hour of the day.
Yeah, I finally took the shot on RGTI here. The reason for it is, again, came from the algo as an overextension play, came down, and you can just see this range that it put in here for a number of minutes where, not getting too high, not getting too low, just hanging out, showing me that maybe there was some accumulation going on in here. So I've taken the shot. I'm going to risk, about $2 from it. So in it, 10, stop loss at 8. And then we'll just see if we can maybe get up to 12 or something. Again, these revision to the mean plays, you're kind of going for 1-to-1s. You're going for 1-to-1s just to hopefully have a little bit greater than a 50-50 win rate, which, the system, again, has about 56% win rate. So over time, it's not going to blow the doors out of the water. You're not trying to make $1 million on any given trade, but I just like the look of it. We're regaining this low that we took in the morning. If I'm short this name, and I was short this name from the 20s yesterday or the day before, and now we're down to the 10s, and I see some support coming in, probably going to cover that short. That could cause a little bit of a pop. Again, I still think this theme's done for a while, but if we get a little bit of a pop and I can make a few bucks on it, why not? Other than that, just the more chop and slop in the market. Right? We undercut yesterday's low again. Now that's 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and we're back above it. We have the VIX starting to curl down a little bit now. So we're starting to see a little bit of that. But really, the sectors that are up on the day are just commodities. So if you're not trading the commodity sectors, nothing's really going for you. So you just have to see what happens at these lows. If we get a reversal, if we can get back over VWAP, if we can maybe get to this VWAP right here, then we can get involved. I still have that order sitting at highs of days, see if that's going to get triggered. Might have to be one of those things that I pull, because I'm not going to leave that order out into FOMC minutes. If I don't get filled earlier than that, I'm not interested. You get that crazy action from anytime any news event comes out with the algos fighting each other. I just like to sit on the sidelines for those.
Adding to VIR, guys, adding to that short, I'm still around the same level here, and I can risk right above it here. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to set a risk towards 1280s and look to see if this really starts to get that big break. If we do get that drive back, well, we'll look to be seeing what happens. But I think this could go down to 12 there now, and I have about 300 shares, so not a bad outlook there. We'll see if we can get that nice little 50 cents here on a quick move. AMD pulling back there. I'll continue to watch VIR to see what happens with that. If it starts to do the breakdown look, or does it just start pushing back towards 13? Definitely, if it starts to close above the 9 EMA, that's not a great sign for me, but it keeps using it as kind of resistance lately. I'm looking for that move to the VWAP, and then looking to see what happens there. That's going to be a big watch. AMD, of course, looking to see what happens here as it pulls back towards the 121. Qs are just kind of chopping right now. It rejected that VWAP there. So the chop continues. And sometimes you can just look at it on the hourly, right? Look at the hourly chart. You can see there kind of bottoming around 512s. You look around here, and essentially from 8 a.m., where have we gone? You've said it best, Michael. Nowhere.
Nowhere.
And that's how it goes sometimes, guys. So this is why sometimes you can have those types of rules that, hey, maybe I want to see the market overall moving if I want to take trades. There's some traders that have these rules where they'll tell themselves, hey, if the market's not up 1% or down 1%, I shouldn't be trading. Or if the market's not up, maybe it doesn't have to be 1%. Per se, but at least a momentum move. Because when the market is choppy like it is right now, the number one thing that they want us to do is do what? Overtrade.
Oh, yes.
That's all they want us to do. All they want us to do is just overtrade. This is
And they
when you have to be patient.
Yeah, and they want you to buy highs and sell lows, right? That's
Yeah.
how
Keep playing
these
the
market
range.
makers
Yeah.
make millions. They want you to yeah, well, billions, right? We see from a lot of these guys. Yeah, and that's what they want. They want you to chase breakouts, chase breakdowns, and then they just keep it in range. They make a whole bunch of money. I think so. I just built this while you were talking there, Mitch. This I think is a good representation of what's going on in the market. So it's another one of these stream apps. Again, I love these. The size of the box is how much uh, the market cap, right, is big and small. And then we actually have, if we do change since the close, this is basically showing up or down in the last 7 days. And you can see it's like a Christmas tree. There's red, there's green, there's not kind of one theme. If we apply this for today, again, it's the same, right? There's not, we have Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft up, we have Google, Amazon, Meta down, and then the rest of it's just kind of a hodgepodge. In really trending days, you'll see this either being very, very green or very, very red. When you see the kind of spattering of both, it's just saying that we got some stuff up, we got some stuff down. Net, there's really not a whole lot going on. And like what Mitch was saying, these are the days that it's very important to be patient. If you are going to be placing trades, again, buy the dip, sell the rip.
Yeah.
Right. Try not to chase breakouts. Try not to chase breakdowns. But just know there'll be less on both sides until the market makes up its mind. Right. Again. Now we're in the 5th time of trying to break yesterday's low. We'll see what happens. Maybe this time. It's a thing. We're an hour into the day though,
Yeah.
and this is where more or less things start to dry up generally as opposed to accelerate.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that I would say today is a comment I say all the time. You got to know the good lunch spots in New York.
Speaking of, we should chat offline. I am going down there at the end of the month for a couple days.
Yeah. Let me know, Michael. Of course, I'm sure you got your guys down there. I can introduce you to some of the guys I know, and you can have some real fun down there for sure.
Yeah,
so
that'd be cool.
Let
I'm
me
hanging
know.
out with JC. I don't know if you ever met from All Star.
Yeah,
the crew.
I know JC. Yeah, and hit up Jay Woods.
Yeah.
Know Jay Woods?
Yeah, we went the 30th or the 50th of the CMT. I remember I was chatting with you way back then. You definitely should have came. We took us down to the exchange.
Yeah, man.
Gave us the tour.
Of course, it would have to go on right when I was on my honeymoon. So I went on my honeymoon, and I couldn't cancel that one,
No,
but
amazing. He was a very gracious host of the floor, right? He walks you through. He knows the history of like every brick in
this
that
guy,
building.
I done a tour with him. You guys can catch it on YouTube. I did it with Benzinga on the New York Stock Exchange, and a true historian. I'll call him that. And he knows his facts, right? It was definitely fun. And if you haven't been to the New York Stock Exchange, I definitely think it's something that everybody should do. So how do you do that? You become friends with the guys that are there.
Yeah.
So.
And there's not many that are there anymore. It's kind of eerie to walk through and just see
hard.
it. Yeah, see it more dead. But no, Jay's great. He's on CNBC all the time. I think I read somewhere he's like the most photographed man in finance. Like every time the market's down, if you ever see a picture,
that's the Einstein of Wall Street.
The Einstein guy, yeah.
I'll give you. But yeah, I know him too, man.
Seems, but yeah, if you ever see
the hair,
and with the hair with Jay Woods too, right? With the lack of it. If you ever see a picture of a bald guy like holding his head down like this on the floor of the exchange, that's Jay Woods. So everyone's seen him. You just don't know who he is. I teased him when I met him too, and I said, we only see pictures of you when the market's down a lot. They need something to throw on the screen.
All right, today's one of those days, guys, where a lot of times you'll hear some traders mention this, and some kind of people that teach education, especially. This could be one of those days where maybe it could be a one trade day where, like, if the trade works, it works. And if it doesn't, maybe I call it a day, right? Because one of these are sometimes days where really, yes, we all come in trying to make money every day, right? But we also got to understand, and I talk about this so much, Michael, in day trading, it's so much more apparent than any other style of trading. You got to know two things: when to hit the brake, when to hit the gas. That's just simply it a lot of the times, because it's about how you said, right? You're going to get lucky eventually, right? You got to be that survivor. Got to know when to hit the brake pedal and know when the market's getting good, right? When we're having those straight trending days and it's just like the stock doesn't even come back to the VWAP. It just wants to move, right?
Yep.
And those are the days where you got to be able to really put on the big boy pants and use some of that buying power, make money, right? Those are the days that you push your equity curve. Then there's days like today where a lot of times majority of traders are going to take a hit on their equity curve.
Yeah.
Now the question is how big of that hit you're willing to take.
Exactly. How much can
Right?
you tread water, right? And it's funny too. A perfect example. Again, I started my career working at an actual physical prop firm, right? Everyone's sitting shoulder to shoulder, a bunch of 20-year-old sweaty nerds like myself, just pounding away at keyboards. And how me and Mitch were just, just joking about stuff and all that. You'll notice the conversation drift based off what's happening in the market. If the market's going, it's all stock talk, what do you think of this chart? What do you think of that chart? What do you think right? And so you can kind of tell, and I would use it, I'd call it my own personal squawk box.
I like that.
Because if I'm in the office and I'm hearing guys talking about the game last night and then where they went to dinner and all this, I know it's a dead market day and that I should back off. But if it was silent in the room and everyone's pounding on their keyboards all day, then I know I better be focusing too, because the market's really moving. And you can see, just as we were talking, right? I've got the S&P 500 up. We hit VWAP, we rejected from it. Looks like we're trying again. Who knows? I will just update my trades real quick. Again, I kind of gave everyone a lesson this morning about making sure everything's closed.
A classic move here. What is going on? All right, so I made a mistake here, guys. There has to be some mistake on here. So sometimes you make some mistake here, right? And so there it is. I cut that one. That was the VIR. So for some reason, I had VIR in the order entry box because I was switching back and forth with accounts. The hardest thing you can do, really. You got to be very apparent and knowing what you're doing. I was trying to add to AMD there, and then I bought some VIR. But what did I do? Just got out of it. $4 win. It's not a win at all. It's 10 cents. It's not even the 30-second rule. But that will do what? That will just keep me neutral. Let that trade be neutral versus trying to figure you figure out what you did wrong. Okay, I got that. And I immediately went to my main screen that I pull up here, and I used the close X button. So the close X button, and I'll put this big so we can see it here. The close X button is immediate out button. Immediate close the position. Then I don't have to worry if have to do buy or sell. Just close it. Just get me out. Mark it out. That's what that close is going to do for you. And they'll give you a warning just to let you guys know. But that's what I did there, right? So I immediately said, whoa, 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 whoa. Catch myself. And right back at it, right? So now I'm looking to get AMD back at where I wanted to buy, which is 121.70. I wanted to add there, but now I'm starting to see the trend going higher, right? The SPY starting to reverse. And a lot of times the market will stop out the day traders, I feel like, and now you'll start to see the move a lot of the time. So between like that kind of that first hour of the market, majority of day traders, they go running out the door, right? That's usually when I start to see the algos start to pick up the market, right? And that's why I say the lunch traders, right? Because there's not really much lunch traders. It's the machines that take over at lunch. And then they come in around maybe 1 or 2, right around the minutes, right? Where that's going to be very important to see the action. And I think that you had a lot of bearish action this morning, a lot of frightening action. Now they could bring the market back. Maybe the minutes aren't that bad. Maybe in the minutes they start talking about conversations of mixed kind of on, do they want to cut? Do they not want to cut, right? What's going to be watched upon a lot is the conversation on inflation. So that's what's going to be the big watch, right? Any mentions of unemployment. I think you got to watch that today at 2 p.m. to see what happens. Of course, that's going to be an instant release PDF. I always suggest to everybody out there, hey, just grab that, put it into an AI, get a nice little overall outlook of what it means. And then you can start to see what's going on based on that, right? NVIDIA had bad news. At what time? Wisdom, is it now or recent. I don't think that's recent, but just trying to catch out there to see what's going on. I think they're just having that choppy type of day. So
Yeah.
it's going to be
So
one of these days where let's just be honest, right? And you could say it too, Michael, if you'd like. For me, on a regular trading day, if I wasn't on this show, at this point, I'd probably call it a day. I'd probably just say, yeah, I'm not making too much money. I'm spending time here, and I'm like opportunity cost is adding up.
yes.
As I sit here and keep trying to play opportunity, the probability of me going into the green is actually less likely than me going towards the red. The red is more likely. As you keep playing on a choppy day, the odds, at least in my eyes, are towards red, not green.
Yeah. Yeah, and just exactly the same. And for me as a swing trader, on any day that I look and I see anything FOMC related, I haven't even looked. I haven't even opened up my swing trading broker. I haven't even looked at what the positions are, because to me, all of that is irrelevant until after JPOW speaks. And then I take a look and I see what's kind of happening after all of that mess, because the minutes are going to come out. You're going to get a spike up, a spike down, another spike up, a spike down. And then in like 30 minutes from there, the market will figure out what it cares about. So just a quick update, this RGTI that I took as it kind of came out of this 970, 980, had a push to about a buck. I took off some just because you can see that's VWAP right there. So we rejected from VWAP. Now I'm just holding the rest. Basically, I took off what my risk was. So if I get stopped out, it's a break-even trade. The only other trade that I took today is ARIS, because it's the only non quantum computing thing that came through any of my scans. So I can actually, let me just do. So these are all of the real-time alerts that I use with trade ideas to kind of present my algos to me. And this is it. So this is everything that came through today. There's 4 systems here. You can see only one of them did anything, and the rest of them did absolutely nothing. So this ARIS is another one that I took. I took it, like I mentioned, around 22 bucks. We're up at 22.78. So it's a dollar winner on that, but you can see how liquid this one is. So not nearly as exciting. I have to take it smaller because of its illiquidity and just try to make a little bit there. So I'm 2 for 2 today. It's unfortunate that I made that mistake on yesterday where I didn't close the positions. I just thought the system would close them for me. So I wasn't able to do anything and trade the pool account today. But, you know, again, just still, I built these systems. I'm going to spend all tomorrow tweaking them and trying to come up with new ideas, because this is fun. Again, as someone who is a non-day trader, it's kind of cool to jump into this world, and I'm glad I get to bring you guys along with me, right? And to be fully transparent that I'm not that good of a day trader. I'm learning. So you guys are learning with me.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. That's what we're here for. Like I always say, the day that you see Michael and I driving Lamborghinis, you probably won't see us on here. I'll be honest. But
unless they're rented, like a lot of the
yeah.
there, right?
We won't tell them that one. Like all the other Furus, right? Renting a nice location, doing some good videos, and then going back home to their
to their mom's house.
one bedroom duplex.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at AMD there, guys, I did get the ad there. I got the ad at 181, 121.81. So now I want to start seeing this hold like kind of like the 121.50 on the pullback, making sure that it's going to kind of hold that, not going back towards 121. The 121 washout could happen and then a recovery. I'm just trying to see now the SPY if we can break the range on the upside, get back through the 589, and on the Qs, back through, let's say 516, going towards 517 is what I'll be looking for. One sign that I'll be watching for, of course, is the leaders. The leaders, can they start going? Apple starting to get going here. So one stock that I talked about in the pre-market. Why? Because it was beaten down. So I start looking at the beaten down names. If they can shift those, things start to look a little bit better. Microsoft, same outlook. Big, long trend line that it's running into. 4th, 5th time that it's hit around here, around this 420. So you can see that on that Microsoft look. I'm looking at that as being areas where they're probably taking some buying action, right where they took buying action in the past, around that 420 spot. So looking to see if Microsoft can get into the green today would be a good outlook. Amazon, a little bit hit hard there. Meta had some interesting news. We'll see if eBay can continue going there, pulling back there towards the 69. Now AMD starting to get going. I'd look to see if NVIDIA can get going here as a good sign to start seeing the bulls start to come back in. So quick spike to 142 could be a good sign of conviction. A lot of times what I look at is once I get in a trade, I'm not so necessarily stressed about that trade. I'm more looking into the market to see, hey, is my timing right? Right? Because I'm going on one stock. I want to see the timing right for the overall market, right? And then that can help me to show some conviction. All right, guys, we'll probably wrap up a tiny bit early here, just about 5 minutes here towards 10:50, just because it's a little bit slower day. And I got to get going. I got some things that I got to get done. And of course, tomorrow we will have off from the markets as we mourn for my man, Jimmy Carter. I still remember I did a big project on him in like the 4th grade. That's when I learned a lot about Jimmy Carter. They give all the presidents to like one kid. And of course, I got Jimmy. So we'll see what happens there. He dealt with a crazy time.
I was going to say, we don't like our guys up in Canada as much. I didn't really study any past prime ministers or anything.
That's a telling sign, my friend.
Yeah, we just don't like them. Whoever's in office, we just don't like them. And that's kind of the Canadian way. So whoever it's there, get them out.
Don't worry. The same thing goes here. There's always another side, right?
Exactly.
There's always somebody upset, man. That's the way I view politics. And that's just the way it works, guys. There's always somebody upset, no matter what it is. So we'll see what happens there. Kerr Rippin says, Steph, you forgot about that one. Yeah. Mitch sold that one a little early today. But hey, it is what it is, guys. Yeah. The only thing that I can do is have the eyes out for the stocks, right? You got to go out there and get after it yourself and nail them, right? Just like do I wish I had some Kerr still? Yeah, of course. I mean, who doesn't, right? But the truth of the matter is sometimes just being on the right stock is enough, right? Sometimes traders can like bog their minds down with this. I made $100 from Kerr. I could have made $600 or an outlook like that. But the truth is what matters is that I was on the right stock, the right play. To me, that matters more than what you got out of it, right? Because if I'm on the right plays, I'll find the next play, right? Versus, I need to make it all in this one play, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And with that, I think we'll do my favorite quote, right? Let's not make one trade make us, and let's not let one trade break us.
Ooh, I love that one. That's a good.
Either side, right?
Yeah.
Everyone talks to you about the break side, but if you think about the make side also, that can keep you safe, right?
Yeah, it's like the lotto winners, right? You know, you give them a bunch of money and you hear the story over and over again. They're bankrupt a little bit later, right? And if you're trying to make this a career, you're trying to make it something that you do for a long time, it should be the same. It should be no one trade should get you too high and no one trade should get you too low.
Yeah, that's the way that's it took me a long time to think about the upside of that, right? Downside is taught often, but what I really realized was, hey, no one trade should make me either, right? And that started to help me, especially if you're looking at these penny stocks, because then you can really understand that, hey, I'm going to have to trade multiple of these to make a wealth, to make a living, right? Yep. It's not about one trade and I'm done. I need to learn how to trade these, rinse in, repeat, get it, look for the next one, understand the setups, understand why these move. A lot of times supply, demand, understanding things like bookmap and the depth, understanding when you have these dark pool ordering coming in, washouts at the open. That's what we saw here in Kerr. Classic for penny stocks. A lot of the times you'll get this little washout right at the open, cutting through support, and volume actually increasing there, showing that it looks like it's a sellout, but then the volume actually comes right back into it, right? Yeah. And so I see these red to green all the time. What I'd look for is the whole dollar spot there, and that's what I was watching, the whole dollar of 3. Could we break above that and hold it on a pullback? And that's what we did. We ended up breaking here. The candle opened there at 302. The next candle goes to 309 on a pullback. The next candle goes to 311 on a pullback. Then the drive starts. You even got an opportunity where it came back to that 311. doesn't break the 3, right? The big money came in on that 3, sold on the first rip, and probably bought it back on the dip, right? The bigger traders. And I tell you, look at those gurus out there. I'm sure they traded the CURR. And you got to know also what are the sweet spots for the gurus. I've studied enough of them. I've been in enough chat rooms to know how they work, man. And this CURR, they were all over this one. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and just a final word for everyone, right? Remember, it's not, even though it's not a big FOMC event, it will shake the markets. So, you know, if you're the kind of person that likes that, you want to take a gamble, go nuts. For me, I'm going to, any of these day trades that I'm in, this RGTI and all of that, I am going to be out of those right before this releases. I'm going to wait to do any swing trading until after that releases. So just know that a little bit of a special day today. I think that's what's causing a lot of the choppiness. Again, there's going to be this event that's just going to make everything go crazy. So make sure you're putting that in your schedule. You're not forgetting it. You definitely don't want to be caught in some positions. If there was a whole bunch of hawkish talk when it came to when it comes to the market, and then all of a sudden you come back from your lunch and everything's gotten killed, right? So that is at, let me just confirm, I think it's at 2 Eastern time. So at 2 Eastern time, everything's going to go absolutely crazy. If you have any stops in place, they're probably going to be triggered, whether they're long, short, regardless of what the market does after that. So just make sure that you have that kind of, you've got all that all dialed in. And you said, okay, I'm going to get out when things get crazy. And then, we'll come back on next week. Well, I think next week's the first non-shortened week in like the last 4.
Don't get your hopes up, because the following week we got Monday off.
Really? Okay, yeah. So I'm excited for some full weeks where the A team for the guys are back in their chairs and we get some good trends. I really think that's what's going to happen. Give us 2 or 3 full weeks in the market and you'll start to see some trends finally develop.
All right, guys, I did step up a little bit there in AMD as it starts to cross that 122. So now I'd look to see if the trend changes on the Qs. What I'm looking at is the hourly candle almost going green here on the hourly for the Qs. And that's how they do it to you, man. They bring it to the hourly low. It's a huge wick down there now towards like 512, and it starts to recover. That's why I always talk about 15 minutes to an hourly chart and looking for those hourly pullbacks to try to catch some good risk to return opportunities, right? And that's going to be a lot of the times on the hourly. I see these all the time where essentially it feels really scary in the intraday, but you're seeing them hold hourly lows, right? 511.92 in the pre-market. We went there towards 512.10. Right? So giving you good risk to return if you're getting it near that level and holding it slightly below, right? You could essentially be selling it here within the range or looking for the breakout, right? We'll see what happens there. AMD now going into the green here, at least for me. And now I'll look to see if it can get above VWAP and start to make the move. The big telling sign to me, we'll start to see if NVIDIA can get into the green, Apple start to lead, and look, that's a telling sign for me when I start to see that Apple start to do things like that, right? The big boy. And of course it was beaten down. So now like Microsoft, I'd like to see it do the same, take 427. Tell me that 2 leaders are starting to push. I'll look for a third, maybe to turn, right? AMD, Meta, Amazon, which one of these are going to make the move? Google, right on the VWAP, right? Maybe Tesla, right? Can start to get going back above 400. It's going to be a big watch. But a lot of this, of course, will turn at the FOMC. So keep your eyes on that action. It could just be up action for like an hour or two, and then the FOMC could always wreck this, right? So that's going to do it for me today, guys. And like always, it's all about trying to stay safe, try to stay calm. Today down 188. Yesterday made close to 300, Monday 700, trying to be smart and controlling the down wave, right? If I can limit the down wave, like I always say, there's levels to this game. The big part is getting through these down waves and then riding the up wave, right? Expanding that equity curve. And you can see this all the time on your dashboards, right? I show this all the time, guys, and I think it's so important, right? Look at those equity curves, guys, and take a look at that, because that's going to tell you a lot, right? When you start to see things like this, right? So I went and I had a really bad day. was going through a little bit of a struggle, now starting to come up. Got to control those down waves. It can't be this big drop. It needs to be small moves for that consistency, right? And how did I start to get back? I went for small gains. Eventually, you'll run into the bigger gain, but you got to take it slow a lot of the times in moments like this. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Like always, keep it going. Reach out to us if you have any questions. You guys can always reach out to Michael. You can reach out to myself. If you guys want to learn any other game in this, maybe it's a strategy that we're not using, but you want to learn how to use it. There's one thing for certain. I'm sure Michael and I have heard about it, or we can tell you a little bit more about it so that we can break it down for you. That's what we're here for, guys. Use this. We're your resource to getting you towards that journey to success. Of course, there's no guaranteed method, but there's one thing for certain. We'll be here battling along with you. Thank you, Michael. Like always, man, I'm appreciating you having here. And I think that what we're doing for this community is not just only something that can help you guys today, but help you throughout your financial journey.
Yeah, and at the very least, come hang out, right? I'm having fun just hanging out here. But just make sure questions, right? We love questions, so you can hit me up on Twitter, you can hit me up wherever it is that you exist, and we'll chat about them on the show. Especially when we have these slow times, it's a great time to shoot out a bit of knowledge. So if there's something that you wanted us to look at, certainly do so. I had a great time for my first week. It's been fantastic. I'm excited to get going next week.
All right. We'll see you guys back. Like always, stay safe out there. And remember, we'll be back on Monday. Stay safe out there, guys. Tomorrow, no markets. Friday will come back. And like always, guys, after a day off and then a Friday, that day is going to be wicked indeed. So be careful out there. We'll see you guys back on Monday.